Stress is not a sign of weakness in leadership. It is often a sign of responsibility. The greater the responsibility, the heavier the pressure. Great leaders understand that stress is not something to eliminate completely, but something to manage wisely. They know that leadership is not tested during easy seasons of life, but during moments of chaos, uncertainty, failure, and overwhelming pressure. When life becomes stressful, average people react emotionally, but great leaders respond intentionally. They pause, observe their inner state, and choose their next action with awareness rather than impulse. This ability to remain conscious under pressure is what separates leaders from followers. Great leaders begin by controlling their inner world before trying to control the external situation. They understand that when emotions are unstable, decisions become unstable as well. Instead of allowing stress to dictate their behavior, they regulate their breathing, their thoughts, and their emotional responses. They slow themselves down mentally even when the world is moving fast around them. This inner discipline allows them to think clearly when others panic. They do not deny their stress. They acknowledge it honestly, but they refuse to let it define their identity or direction. This self-mastery becomes the foundation of their leadership during difficult times. Another powerful habit of great leaders during stressful seasons is clarity of purpose. When pressure increases, confusion also increases. Great leaders counter confusion with clarity. They remind themselves why they started, what they stand for, and what truly matters. This clarity becomes an anchor in the storm. While others get lost in short-term fear, great leaders reconnect with long-term vision. They ask themselves what kind of leader they want to be remembered as during this crisis. This question reshapes their mindset from survival to service, from fear to responsibility. Great leaders also understand that stress is often amplified by isolation. When pressure increases, many people withdraw emotionally, believing they must handle everything alone. Great leaders do the opposite. They build circles of support and trust. They seek perspective from mentors, advisors, and trusted team members. They know that leadership does not mean carrying every burden alone, but carrying responsibility while sharing perspective. By opening space for dialogue, they reduce emotional overload and gain strategic clarity. This habit protects them from burnout and poor decision-making. During stressful times, great leaders manage their energy, not just their time. They understand that exhaustion makes stress feel heavier than it actually is. They protect their physical health, their sleep, and their mental focus because they know leadership is a long-term game. They create small routines that stabilize their day, even when everything feels uncertain. These routines may be simple, but they act as anchors that bring consistency to chaos. When leaders are physically and mentally grounded, they make better decisions and inspire calm in others. Great leaders also reframe stress as feedback rather than punishment. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What is this teaching me?" This shift in mindset transforms stress into a teacher. Every stressful situation contains lessons about priorities, boundaries, systems, and leadership style. Leaders who grow under pressure are those who listen to these lessons rather than resist them. They reflect on what they can improve, where they need to adapt, and what patterns in their leadership may be creating unnecessary pressure. This reflective mindset turns stress into growth. When life becomes stressful, great leaders rely heavily on mindset, because mindset determines how reality is interpreted. Two people can face the same pressure, yet one feels defeated while the other feels strengthened. The difference is not in the situation, but in perception. Great leaders train themselves to see stress as a signal for focus rather than a signal for fear. They understand that pressure often appears when growth is near. Instead of assuming that stress means something is going wrong, they see it as evidence that they are operating at the edge of their comfort zone, where meaningful progress is created. This belief changes the emotional tone of pressure from threat to opportunity. Emotional intelligence becomes a powerful advantage for leaders during stressful periods. Great leaders develop awareness of their emotional triggers and patterns. They know which situations tend to provoke anger, frustration, or anxiety within them, and they prepare strategies to respond rather than react. This emotional self-awareness allows them to interrupt destructive habits before they cause damage. Instead of speaking harshly when overwhelmed, they pause, Instead of making rushed decisions when anxious, they create space for reflection. Over time, this emotional maturity builds trust because people feel safe around leaders who are emotionally stable even under pressure. Decision-making under stress is one of the greatest tests of leadership. Great leaders resist the urge to make fast decisions simply to escape discomfort. They understand that urgency does not always equal importance. When pressure increases, they slow down their thinking process even if they must act quickly. They separate facts from emotions, short-term relief from long-term impact. They ask themselves whether a decision is being driven by fear or by values. This disciplined thinking prevents costly mistakes that are often made when leaders choose comfort over correctness. Great leaders become comfortable sitting with temporary discomfort in order to protect long-term success. Another powerful trait of great leaders is the ability to set boundaries during stress. When life becomes demanding, it is tempting to overwork, overcommit, and sacrifice health. Great leaders understand that saying yes to everything is not leadership. It is poor strategy. They protect their mental space by setting limits on availability, workload, and emotional drain. They know that burnout does not serve anyone. By modeling healthy boundaries, they give permission to others to protect their well-being as well. This creates a culture of sustainable excellence rather than short-term heroics, followed by long-term collapse. Great leaders also use stress as a mirror for self-leadership. Pressure reveals habits, beliefs, and blind spots that remain hidden during calm seasons. Instead of being ashamed of these revelations, great leaders become curious about them. They reflect on how they behave when tired, overwhelmed, or uncertain. They ask whether their leadership values remain consistent under pressure. This honest self-examination strengthens character. Leaders who are willing to confront their own weaknesses during stress grow into more authentic and trustworthy figures over time. Finally, great leaders cultivate inner stillness even when external noise is loud. They create moments of silence to think, reflect, and reconnect with themselves. This may come through quiet walks, journaling, reflection, or intentional pauses before important decisions. These moments of stillness restore clarity. In a world that demands constant reaction, great leaders choose reflection. This practice protects them from becoming reactive leaders and allows them to remain strategic leaders even during intense pressure. Great leaders do not rely on motivation alone during stressful periods. They rely on disciplined habits. Motivation rises and falls with emotions, but habits create stability when emotions are unstable. During pressure-filled seasons, great leaders simplify their daily routines and protect the habits that keep them grounded. They prioritize consistent sleep, basic physical movement, moments of reflection, and intentional planning. These habits may appear ordinary, but in difficult times, ordinary discipline becomes extraordinary leadership. By maintaining structure in their own lives, they create internal order even when external conditions feel chaotic. Another defining quality of great leaders under stress is their ability to lead teams through uncertainty with calm direction. They understand that people do not just look to leaders for answers. They look for emotional cues. When leaders appear centered, teams feel safer. Great leaders openly acknowledge challenges without dramatizing them. They provide direction without pretending to have perfect solutions. This honest confidence builds trust. Instead of controlling every detail, they empower others to take ownership, encouraging initiative rather than fear-based obedience. This shared responsibility reduces pressure on the leader while strengthening the team's collective resilience. Great leaders know that during stressful times, culture becomes more important than strategy. Strategies can fail when people lose morale, but strong culture can carry teams through imperfect plans. Leaders protect values when pressure tempts shortcuts. They choose integrity over convenience even when stress invites compromise. By modeling ethical behavior during difficulty, they send a powerful message that character is not situational. This consistency builds long-term credibility. People follow leaders who stand firm in their values when it would be easier to bend them. Another powerful habit of great leaders is the ability to zoom out during moments of intensity. Stress narrows perspective and makes problems feel permanent. Great leaders intentionally widen their view. They remind themselves that most crises are chapters, not the entire story. This long-term perspective prevents emotional overreaction to temporary challenges. By remembering past difficulties they have overcome, leaders reinforce their confidence in their ability to navigate current stress. This mental reframing transforms pressure from something that feels endless into something that feels manageable. Great leaders also invest in learning during stressful seasons. Instead of postponing growth until life becomes easier, they learn precisely because life is difficult. They read, reflect, seek insight, and study how other leaders have handled pressure. This learning mindset prevents stagnation and keeps their leadership evolving. Stressful periods become classrooms rather than prisons. Leaders who learn under pressure develop wisdom that cannot be gained during comfortable seasons. Over time, these lessons accumulate into deep leadership maturity. Another important behavior of great leaders is their ability to practice self-compassion without lowering standards. They do not shame themselves for feeling overwhelmed, but they also do not excuse poor behavior. They treat themselves with the same understanding. They offer others while holding themselves accountable to their values. This balance prevents both burnout and complacency. Leaders who practice healthy self-compassion recover faster from setbacks and return to effectiveness more quickly after mistakes. Great leaders are ultimately defined not by how they perform when life is comfortable, but by how they grow when life becomes demanding. Stress becomes the environment in which leadership is refined, shaped, and strengthened. While many people collapse under pressure, great leaders learn to carry pressure with grace. They understand that difficult seasons are temporary, but the character built during those seasons is permanent. Instead of wishing for easier circumstances, they focus on becoming stronger individuals who can carry responsibility with wisdom, patience, and emotional stability. Great leaders build long-term resilience by developing an inner identity that is not dependent on results, praise, or public approval. When leaders attach their self-worth only to success, stress becomes overwhelming because every challenge feels personal. Mature leaders separate who they are from what they achieve. This emotional independence allows them to remain confident, even when outcomes are uncertain. They measure success not only by results, but by how closely their actions align with their values. This inner stability becomes a powerful source of calm during chaos and a foundation for sustainable leadership over time. Patience with the process is another defining quality of great leaders during stressful periods. Pressure creates urgency, and urgency often pushes people into rushed decisions. Great leaders resist this impulse. They understand that meaningful growth and lasting progress take time. By trusting the process, they remain consistent, even when progress feels slow. This patience allows them to stay strategic rather than reactive. Instead of chasing quick relief, they commit to long-term improvement. Their calm persistence becomes a visible example for others to follow during difficult times. When life gets stressful, great leaders don't panic. They lead with clarity, control, and purpose. This video reveals how strong leaders manage pressure, stay calm in chaos, and make smart decisions during difficult times. You'll learn practical mindset and leadership habits that turn stress into strength. Inspired by timeless principles shared by world-class mentors like Tony Robbins. If you're feeling overwhelmed by responsibilities or challenges, this message will help you stay focused, resilient, and confident under pressure. Watch till the end to shift your mindset and lead your life with strength.